choose my fate. I know the views is fake. They pushing the global stage. Fake news on the radio wave. All the hoax, the whole world is a stage. Body double like I'm Saddam Hussein. Doing my thing. Don't want the fame, just tryna make change. They took out my page. But I'm infinite gang, infinite plane, playing no games. Infinite gang, we ain't playing no games. Infinite plane.
Alright everyone, thanks for joining. It's January 7th, 2022. The day after the anniversary of America's latest Pearl Harbor attack, the 1/6 performance art piece by Jake and Jelly. Isn't it amazing? You get some guy in a Viking costume walking around like a drunken fool with a spear, and clearly they didn't think this guy was a threat. He's walking around with a spear and they didn't go shoot him. I mean, walk into your capital with a spear, see what happens. The guy was obviously a paid agitator, an actor, son of a Democrat judge, no less. But now we're listening to the retelling of this thing, and it's such a charade. So, just a heads up, I think we already know what's going on with that, and I'm going to cover a lot of things. I was talking about true believer syndrome a minute ago, but the audio was off. True believer syndrome was a term that this was something that had to do with the psychic mediumship and people being scammed by psychics who could talk to ghosts, etc. So true believer syndrome is a rhetorical term used by M. Lamar Keene in his 1976 book, The Psychic Mafia. The term is used to refer to people who continue to believe in paranormal events or phenomenon even after it is demonstrated to have been staged. So true believers are suffering. Maybe they're not suffering. I think they might enjoy cognitive dissonance. But they choose to remain in this state of cognitive dissonance, as in their perceptions don't exactly correlate with reality. But they don't care because they're in the consensus. And our consensus reality is a reality of true believers. If you're a non-believer, a heretic, you're now a conspiracy theorist. You're a threat to society. You're a meme super spreader. And memes apparently are far more deadly than viruses. Memes kill. And speaking of, let me bring this up. Since we brought up viruses, I'm sure this is just another coincidence. Okay, so we do examine a lot of the bizarre coincidences that we see in the news. And, what can you say when you have 2, 3, 4, 5 coincidences piling up? I think it was Ian Fleming, who wrote 007, James Bond, who said, once is a happenstance, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. So here's an example. Right now, the world is being attacked. It's being invaded by the Omicron strain of the coronavirus. Now, I wanted to mention this first, too. Last time we spoke, I was referencing the cover of the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report is easily, I think, one of the largest news aggregators for the political right. But anybody in the media, they check out Drudge to see what's on the headline. And it's these outlets that I think are worth paying attention to if you're trying to figure out what the big story is, what the meta script is telling you. These are the memes that are being forced into society. So this is the cover image of the Drudge Report a few days ago. The last wave. And you have these Omicron COVIDs coming in from outer space surrounding the Earth. Now, I often talk about the correlation between outer space and inner space, and this is something that the media has actually constructed for us. It's in all the movies. How many alien invasion movies are internal invaders? Corona Park is actually the place where the first UFO crashed in Roswell. Corona Park. Then you have the term Corona being used. The first satellite system, the first spy satellite, was a secret program called Corona. Then you have in Men in Black a show about alien invaders who internally invade. They're inside people's heads, etc. The Men in Black series. Corona Park is where the movie culminates. So this is a reoccurring theme here. And then a few months ago, the first time ever that the space station was hit by a piece of space junk. Now, you would think they'd be facing this all the time because the junk that's up there has been up there for decades, but all of a sudden it's a problem. So we've had a number of instances in the last couple of months regarding space junk. The space station has to maneuver to dodge Chinese space junk from a satellite they blew up, then Russian space junk for the same. On November the 30th, they had to cancel a spacewalk because of junk. Now, think about the term junk, and again, I'm talking about the correlation between inner space and outer space, orbit, and circulation. Junk is a slang term for something in the veins. Space junk is the stuff we have to clean up from our orbit before it wrecks everything above. And so, this summer, the ISS was the scene of this particular incident. They were performing experiments, they were testing the efficacy of vaccines in outer space, and a piece of space junk hit the arm of the space station, vaxing it, more or less. The space station's arm was punctured. First time ever it was hit by space junk, and it was on the mission called Celestial Immunity. So I'm looking at this as meta-scripted story, a mythology created for the masses. So getting back to the present time, because that cover art from the Drudge Report is a reference to this Omicron thing. Well, it turns out that Futurama, which is another one of these cartoons like The Simpsons or The Family Guy that predicts, or rather, I guess you could say conditions us for the future that's already been scripted for us. You have this group of alien invaders from the planet Omicron. So there you have a connection. One, planet Omicron, reptilian invaders coming from space. And then two, Percy 8. Omicron Percy 8. That's the name of their planet. Well, the other day, 2 days ago, a piece of Russian space junk, 20 tons of it, burned up in our atmosphere. And I think there's still a large chunk of it still orbiting. So at the same time that we're seeing this image of Omicron invading us, we have Russian space junk literally invading us, and it's called Percy, which is the name of the planet that these reptoids are from. Major Futurama tie-in to the outer space drama that's unfolding. Let me play a clip.
I am Lur of the planet Omicron Persei 8. Is this thing on?
So there you have it, alien invaders. Interesting connections and correlations. Let me go ahead and check on the chat and see who's here. Joined by Adam Lanza, Joshua, Frank, Linda, Aku Nukem. We'll be taking calls later, joined by Crater Earth USA, by the way. I was over there at Dark Matter listening to the new morning show, Crater Earth USA, Monday through Friday. Just completed the first week. It was rather awesome. I've been listening at darkmatter.radio, but you can also find him on YouTube. And generally, I'll be live right after, if not right before. And so we like to have a pool of listeners and have them just jump from one show to the next. All right, so let us continue. We're going through a number of headlines from the last couple of days, things that I wanted to catch up on. Someone sent this to me. I'm not sure if this is a real book. It's from Penguin Books. How to Survive in a Strange World After Sliding into an Alternate Timeline. Is that a real book? Am I Mandela affected? What is that? How to Survive in a Strange World After Sliding into an Alternate Timeline. Which that reminds me. 1/6 was not only the anniversary of the guy with the horns running into the Capitol and killing democracy or whatever, but 1/6 is also the anniversary of the opening of CERN. Do you remember that ceremony in where they have all the people in their devil costumes? The Gotthard Tunnel opening ceremony. This event. Let me see if I can find the actual opening ceremony. Oh, Gotthard, excuse me. I mean, it looks like a bunch of goths, and they're basically dressed up like devils and demons, and they're running around with their horns, opening portals to hell. Everything you would expect from CERN, given their logo, is a pretty obvious 666. And I happen to think that the CERN may even be a reference to Cernunnos, the horned deity. I don't think they're actually doing science. Science is just a cover or convenient excuse for what they're actually doing. Is it all just theater? I don't know. There does happen to be a lot of interesting Mandela effects connected with CERN and their promotional materials. They make a lot of interesting references to things that are, quote, Mandela affected. So I don't know what your take is on this. I'm just bringing it up that this cult of Cernunnos, horned god worshippers, had this opening ceremony, and I'm looking at this guy, and he looks kind of like Jake and Jelly, the guy with the horns who ran into the Capitol. Jake and Jelly, by the way, was 33 years old. Does that mean anything? Well, I would say, if you look at it in context, it might mean something. For example, Code Monkey Z, Ron Watkins, the guy who was pretty much behind most of the Q website postings, or at least really close to the source, he's also 33. These aren't coincidences. Exclusive: QAnon Shaman is a 33-year-old failed actor who lives with his mom, and his dad's a Democrat judge, spouts conspiracy theories about FBI pedophile codes, and roams the streets dressed in his bizarre horned outfit. Now, most of you know about this person. Now, he came from North Mountain Village Apartments, address 3333. Now, the number 33, if you want to figure out what this means, to me it's a matter of you have to look at the context. And in the context in which these numbers are constantly appearing in the mainstream news, that number appears to be code for problem, reaction, solution, order out of chaos. Operations that are intended to move society by colliding polarized opposites against one another. I mean, it's not a coincidence, and I talked about this in the issue of Fake World News that's going out this weekend. It's no coincidence that Kyle Rittenhouse and Greta Thunberg share a birthday. They just turned 19 on the 3rd, and I think Bitcoin turned 13 on the 3rd. Anyway, January 3rd, 2003, Kyle Rittenhouse, Greta Thunberg, two of the most famous child actors on the world stage today, each representing the far extreme of their respective wing, each of them being a wing on the same bird. And I think they're both child actors groomed from the time that they're children for these roles. I don't think they're all that authentic or real. I mean, the last time I saw Greta Thunberg, she was dancing like a Muppet in a crowded concert with no masks, and she was rickrolling everybody. She killed the Rickroll. You know the Rickroll meme? If you're not familiar with rickrolling, it was just you just send somebody a link and it would be they would think it's something serious, but it would send it to Rick Astley, never going to give you up. And this is a reference to the cyber stalker cult Anonymous, because once they start stalking you, they never quit. So Rick Astley is actually probably one of the few, or maybe the only true casualty of this COVID-19 scamdemic. Again, I'm a non-believer. Chop my head off if you must. But yes, Greta Thunberg killed Rick Astley. So this is the Rickroll song. Now, she came out at a concert. And I'm not picking on Greta or Kyle. I understand that these are world stage characters. These are public figures, but moreover, they're human shields. They put Greta out there so you don't criticize the psychopathic nature of environmentalism, how just clearly misanthropic it is. So these are human shields. So it's okay to throw tomatoes at the human shields on your screen. And I think Greta is also code. Greta, great reset. Greta, reset. What's the difference? There is no difference. Even before COVID, she said, stay home, don't fly home for Christmas. The planet can't take it. How dare you? Let me play a short clip. This is Greta Thunberg basically trampling the body of Rick Astley to death.
We are no strangers to love.
You know the rules, and so do I.
Oh, interesting. It looks like there's some kind of copyright thing where they pulled the audio. I'm not mad about this. Greta Thunberg rickrolls crowd at climate concert. Anyway, this is a packed crowd. No masks, no social distancing. You explain it. Unbelievable. And these are the people who would have you incarcerated in your home indefinitely. And that's to save the planet, not to stop the pandemic. And right after the pandemic was declared, NASA was talking about how clear our skies were, how COVID-19 had cleared our skies, and you could see it from space, that the pollution levels had dropped so much, they had plummeted over China, that you could tell that, hey, if you shut down the economy, it really quickly does heal the planet. So airborne nitrogen dioxide plummets over China. This was from right after the pandemic was declared, and you can see here. And what's more, they mention that more lives will be saved from clean air then will be lost to the virus, making the argument here that, maybe an annual plague would be a good thing for both humanity and the globe. Now, you can believe these images to be real if you choose to. I tend not to. I tend to think they make things up in order to get us to reach certain conclusions on our own. We're being coerced. I think the dominant culture today is basement dwelling, sitting in front of a screen. I think that's the model for the future. Okay, let me go ahead and get back to this is something someone sent to me, a calculator between days. So the pandemic was declared on 3/11/2020. 666 days later, 1/6/2022. Does that mean anything? Not sure. Interesting though. Appreciate whoever posted that in our Discord server. Cows stuck indoors for winter are getting virtual reality goggles to feel like they're outside. So now the cows are going into the metaverse. And you see, this is going to be you next year. What's the difference? Isn't this what the entire thing was about? I mean, I know some people think they're trying to kill us all, or they're trying to give us all the mark of the beast, but I kind of think that maybe this whole operation in the last year and 2 years has just been tagging all the cattle. They installed a new crown, the New World Order, and they need to check their inventory. Mark all the bovine. Let's see, Anx G says, yay, IPS, is this a replay? It is, and it's also a very weirdly timed coincidence. Let's see here. Salty Siren says, Greta is definitely a stranger to love. That's why it behaves like that. I blame the parents. She is a good actress, though, and you can tell it's an act, so I don't hold it against her. Same with Kyle. I mean, look, Kyle, if that was real, I apologize, and good shot. But I kind of think it's just Crisis Actor of the Year. Gage Grosskreutz, yeah, it was kind of convincing when his wrist flopped and he starts dancing in place with his arm blown up, but it was obviously a squib. Is anybody here not on Team Squib? Oh, speaking of the metaverse and our inauguration into it, I mean, people are basically wearing their smartphones over their eyes now. 1997, don't sit too close to the TV, it'll damage your eyes. And you look today. And I've been talking about the movie They Live. And almost all of you here have probably seen They Live. If you're not, you're familiar with the basic idea, you've seen the memes. They Live is this John Carpenter science fiction about an alien invasion. One of the things I've been talking about today. How the aliens have already invaded. They have invaded from within. They avoided the big spectacle that would cause an uprising. That's kind of what I think 9/11 was about. I mean, not 9/11, excuse me. 9/11 was overt and obvious alien invasion. 3/11, the pandemic, very covert. There wasn't any one event you could point to. It was just kind of slow. It crept in. Now, if you look here, this is from They Live. That's Russian vids. I mean, Rowdy Piper. And then when he puts on these magic glasses, he can see the aliens. He can see the real meaning of the propaganda. Because, like I've been saying on this channel, all of the movies you watch, all of the books you read in the comics, yeah, it's entertaining, but that's the side effect. It's actually just propaganda. And you can tell, because it's all monolithically leading humanity collectively towards one destination. This monolithic worldview is the new monotheism for the globe. And it's a combination of Christianity, Islam, and scientism. Christian eschatology in particular being the doomsday apocalypse scenario of global warming, plus the flood, carbon footprint, your original sin. So here we are looking at They Live, and the glasses allow him to see. So I think this is fascinating, though, because if you really think about it, everyone's going to be wearing these glasses in the future. Everyone's going to be having to perceive through a screen. The movie came out in 1988, by the way. They Live, 1988. Would that make it a 33-year-old movie? Okay, so again, it's about subliminal messages in mass media, about aliens, etc. But it seems like today, the people who are seeing through this deception are the ones who are taking off the lenses, taking off the Oculus, removing the screen. Or if not just removing the screen, removing the argument from authority that comes from the screen. So it's kind of an inverted They Live. We're the ones taking off the glasses. Let's see. Commenter says the 2016 TBS sitcom People of Earth about an alien invasion, a documentary more than a sitcom. Interesting. Thirst for Truth says never forget the 311 jumpers. Yeah. Well, if you didn't know, and I don't even think this is sensitive anymore. I think people have already moved on. You can say certain things and people get triggered, but when it comes to like 9/11, for example, we have enough evidence now where if you're going to say nobody died, there were no planes, you do have legs to stand on. They don't. They can argue, they can say, oh, I saw the CGI plane on TV, but you can show them handheld cameras where there were no planes. You can hear witnesses, people who were there were no planes. So there were no jumpers either. But how do they accomplish it? Pneumatic cannons. And I believe the bodies they were using were either just straight dummies, or there are these training dummies the fire department there was using that looked like they were made out of a folded up fire hose, wired together. But yes, they were just launching them out. Now the 311 jumpers, there was this constant refrain about how the hospitals were overflowing, the ICUs were packed, they didn't have enough nurses to handle the inflow of patients, they didn't have enough PPE, bodies were crowding in the hallways, they had to get auxiliary tents, they had auxiliary hospitals set up everywhere, they had to set up trucks outside for the bodies, they had to fill up the morgues, and I guess the morgues were so full that they had to fill up the hospital morgues and they needed these trucks. We were just told that the hospitals were bursting at the seams from bodies, that there were so many bodies on these floors, they were packed so tight that they were literally falling out the top windows. Those would be the 311 jumpers. Now they don't exist, just like the 9/11 jumpers. Now let me bring this up though. This is a fascinating thing. Okay, so you know the falling man from 9/11? On 9/11 there's a very famous image of a man falling, and he looks like the tarot card figure. His hands behind his back, one of his legs bent at a 90-degree angle. Now this is Photoshop, it's CGI, it's not real. However, this is the part that I think really should stand out to you if you question this one at all. It was photographed by Richard Drew. Richard Drew of the Associated Press photographed the falling man. Who is Richard Drew? He's the guy that photographed Robert F. Kennedy as he fell to the ground after he was shot. So RFK. Now I have a question, a little side note. Why aren't the QAnoners obsessed with Robert Kennedy? They're insistent that JFK's death was fake, that JFK Jr.'s death was fake. How come Robert F. Kennedy got screwed? How come he didn't get to be a death faker? Anyway, Robert F. Kennedy falling down to his death, photographed by Richard Drew, who also photographed the falling man on 9/11. There's a whole documentary about this called The Immortal Plunge. Major propaganda piece. Very significant. I think it has more to do with, I think there's a deeper significance to the falling man than just the building was too hot, an atrocity propaganda piece. We'll get into more of that as we go along. Okay, let me go through my minds.com. This is where I post all the links, everything that we are discussing. And I also want to go through the Discord server here as well. I want to go through the Discord server because last night, about midnight, I kind of went to bed. And a lot of stuff was posted since then. So if you're not in the Discord server, I highly recommend it. You just go to infiniteplanesociety.com, join for $2 a month. Okay, I'm going to start at midnight because it seemed like from midnight on, right after I fell asleep, everything interesting started happening. First, space colonists may have to be cannibals. Now, this is 2022. 2022 is the year of Soylent Green. Soylent Green is a movie about the dead being recycled, going green. And that's where we're going. We are going green. And if you didn't know, there's already discussion about using dead astronauts in the architecture on these bases. It's called Astrocrete. Astrocrete is an actual cement or concrete-like material that they're going to be using on Mars or the moon, made from regolith, the moon dust, and HSA, human serum albumin, a protein from human blood. So yes, Astrocrete is going to be made from a protein in human blood. It says here, in essence, this can be extracted from the astronauts on a semi-continuous basis. So you can give blood. It says here, they can do this with a lunar or Martian dust to get stone from blood. Very interesting. To rephrase the proverb, they can get stone from a blood. We believe that human serum albumin extraterrestrial regolith biocomposites could potentially have a significant role in a nascent Martian colony. So you're a new Martian, and you may be able to donate blood and mix it with the mud and make bricks. I mean, does this even make sense? To me, this is some kind of way of conveying to everybody that when you go into heaven, you have to sacrifice your body. That there's a sacrifice before you can go into the higher world, the higher realm. Because in this new religion, they've replaced the archaic, older concepts of heaven with these space bases, these Martian colonies, lunar colonies. You could call it space communism. You could call these space gulags, but this is the new heaven. That's how I would describe it. It's a utopian ideal. Okay, let's see here. Now this is an interesting one. Unvaxxed person's blood infected after sex with a vaccinated person. Source, Telegram. Dr. Lewis NP examines the blood of a vaccinated person and an unvaccinated person after sex and claims the unvaxxed person developed... Let me see what they developed. Here we go. This is just one of these articles, I think. It's kind of funny. I knew this was where it was going to go. To people on one side, the other side is contaminated, and vice versa. One side is saved, the other side is not saved. One side thinks, okay, everyone there is going to die because they're not taking the augmentation. They're not letting man save them from the virus. The other hand, on the other side, you've got the people who believe that they're born with pure blood and a functioning immune system. So they don't need, in their minds, they don't need this augmentation. They're already born saved. So it becomes, to me, this is a replacement for the saved versus unsaved question. Are you born saved, or is it by works? Do you have to go to church? Do you have to go through sacraments? Or can you just be saved? Can you just more or less heal thyself? And the answer is, it depends on who you ask. These are two different religious paradigms. I mean, this is a schism, a major schism. So one half is wondering, why aren't those guys dead? They didn't get vaxxed. And then the other side is looking at the vaxxed, saying, why aren't they dead? Isn't the 5G supposed to fry their brains or something? Like, they come up with all these ways that they ought to have already been vax-ageddoned, but it's not happening. Salty Siren says, remember the 311 crisis Quakers? Oh yeah, we had crisis dancers in the hospitals, and then we did have the crisis shakers or Quakers, and those would be I think those are largely fake videos on Instagram of people claiming that the vax was causing them to shake. I mean, there are crisis actors on both sides of this. This is why I don't care to take sides, because both sides are totally instigated by insiders. This is how it works. Greta, I mean, are you on Team Greta or Team Kyle? I mentioned both of them as having the same birth date. It's not because of astrology. I think it's something even deeper. And I think the two of them being two wings of the same bird, it's meant to, contain everybody within this box. Far right, far left. And I'm not taking sides. And I happen to believe that the vaccine issue is simply that. It's a political football. I don't believe that it's there to save you because your leaders love you so much, nor is it there to wipe you out because they hate you so much. It's neither. Pope calls pet owners selfish. Right? Okay. No, I don't want to hear any sort of judgmental criticisms from the Pope based on what he represents. I mean, what would you call some of those predators? Anyway, you're selfish if you own pets. Well, what does that mean? Well, the Pope is green. Marxist, communist, environmentalist, eco-fascist, whatever you want to call it. And the greenies are mean and they hate pets. They think you should have robot pets because pets have a carbon footprint. I even saw some book somewhere talking about how your small animal has a bigger carbon footprint than your SUV. So they're already preparing people to do away with that. Okay, let's see. Headlines: Whoopi Goldberg shocked at catching COVID despite being triple vaxxed. Right, but that doesn't change them. They don't wake up. That's why I don't think there's any point to taking sides. One side is firmly convinced that they're right, and nothing is going to change that ever. So it's here you have Whoopi Goldberg, triple vaxxed, double masked, double boosted, and she's still shocked that she catches it. And of course, who's to blame? Well, some unvaccinated, super spreading conspiracy theorist, obviously. But when I hear this, I'm thinking, okay, this is how you know that they have Stockholm syndrome, because they will continue to make excuses for their abuser. It'll be 8 vaxes, weekly boosters, and they're still going to get it. Then they're going to have face shield, double mask, double boosted, and then she's going to get hit by a piece of space rock while she's in bed. Like, there is no escape. Okay, I'm going through the Discord server. Time says, I just want to let everyone know that I'm fully fascinated. Same. These are really interesting times. And I don't come at this information from the perspective of run for the hills. They're all going to get us. We're all going to die. I've always been opposed to that, and I've been right every time. I mean, I remember on the eve of April Fool's Day, Richie from Boston was telling us that they're going to kill us all, that he's going to be dragged out of his home, away from his MREs, his guns, and his Bible, and he's going to be killed, and they're going to shut off the internet. And this was April 1st, 2020. It didn't happen, if you noticed. But the people who forecast doom on a regular basis never own up to it. They never say, oh, I was wrong. Listen to this. All the variants together: Alpha, Delta, Omicron, Lambda, Flurona. Is anyone going to name their kid Flurona? Flurona. It's actually a nice name. Alpha, Delta, Omicron, Lambda, Flurona. ADOLF. Adolf. I wonder if there's any meaning to that. What do you think? Adolf. Now I know Delta Omicron gives you an anagram for media control, and you can also get moronic. And you could say that the moronic are completely controlled by the media, but that's not nice. All right, going through some comments. Crater USA says, I'm too sexy for my shot. One thing the mass media loves to do is it loves to gloat. It really loves to gloat and grave dance whenever someone dies from not getting the vax. So again, don't think they love you. They love you if you're on their side of the fence, but if you read the way they just celebrate, as I said before, this modern religion is scientism combined with all the worst elements of the other major religions, because it's syncretism. It's combining all of them together into one. But they worship the globe. The globe is pretty much their God proxy. But they also have a devil. COVID-19 is the devil they introduced because it's the devil the atheists can even believe in. And every time this devil takes out one of theirs, they celebrate it. So I know that they do have this globe God proxy, but I would say that the left are actually devil worshippers because they have much more, I'd say, fanaticism and much more passion for COVID and COVID killing their enemies than they do for saving their globe. They're just passive witnesses to the destruction of the globe, and they blame Republicans, but they rarely do anything. The climate science people are a bunch of hypocrites. I mean, the COVID hypocrites are bad enough. Greta with her concert, no masks, no vaxes. Everyone's packed in, no social distancing, killing a good meme. What a hypocrite. Think about the carbon footprint in that concert. Just the number of people traveling over there, the damage, the harm they did to Mother Earth, and it will never recover. So they don't really care about that. But they do love this COVID devil. Anti-vax podcaster Douglas Kuzma dies of COVID-19. Now, that's one. Podcaster and outspoken anti-vaxxer Douglas Kuzma died. 2, he caught it while attending a Dallas meeting of far-right conspiracy theorists. You see the pattern here? And it's these patterns that, to me, give it away, that we're looking at a psychological operation. This guy's probably an agent, and as we speak, he's probably getting a nose job, and he's going to go start off his new life somewhere. Or he may be recycled. We may see him at another mass shooting with Mac Parhar, Rob Skiba, and all these other death fakers who die conveniently just in time for the media to point at them. Like Rob Skiba was the flat earther, anti-vaxxer. He put out a documentary in 2012 about the mark of the beast coming from the vax. Well, he gets the COVID and he dies, and the media widely reports on it. And it happens to be the same day that Kyrie Irving is protesting his vax. Kyrie Irving, the flat earther basketball player. So these two stories are going concurrently. And yet, it goes further because they say, well, Rob Skiba caught it at a biblical flat earth conference. So whoever he caught it from didn't die, which is weird, but that's what this thing is. If you go to the places where the conspiracy theorists are, you will die. As I said at the very beginning, memes kill. So just another example, memes kill. This could have been prevented, but the subtext here is he got what he deserved. This heretic got what he deserved. Let's see. Let's move on. Mom of Capitol rioter Jackson Kostalski blames Rush Limbaugh, Alex Jones. He's a victim of media. Right, but nobody considers the left, who are, in fact, the extremists. If you look at this political spectrum, they're the ones who are behind the Great Reset, the revolution, burning everything down to enrich the billionaires. Nobody considers them to be victims of media, the true believers in this thing. In fact, I have some interesting tweets to share regarding the Capitol fake riot. One of them is, okay, do you know Rosanne Boyland? Rosanne Boyland was the rioter at 1-6 who carried the Don't Tread on Me flag. Well, this rioter was trampled to death outside of the Capitol. I mean, what are the odds? Don't tread on me, trampled to death. I called this out early on as this is obviously a joke. It's kind of funny. You know, it's very funny from like a Shakespearean thing. It's kind of like a double meaning. They put these little inside jokes in everything. So here's just a few examples from that day. Now again, don't tread on me, she gets trampled on. So here you have Boylan on the ground, and you can see the stomping circle, and the cop with the white sleeves doesn't have a head in this shot. Look, there's a dummy on the ground. I'll have to share these in my Minds.com account, but people are digging through the footage, and it's pretty obvious that you're looking at acting and a psyop. If you look at the Ashley Babbitt event itself, there's a documentary called Everything You Need to Know About the Capitol Hill Riots in 21 Minutes or Less. You can actually see a jump cut, as in the thing was edited. Okay, here, it wasn't a continuous shot. Okay, here we go. Officer Fan 1, the guy who just got a gig on CNN, the guy with the terrible neck tats. Okay, Officer Fan 1 and Rosanne Boyland are here. Now, a couple of things. You can see in the pictures, and a shout out to Lori Pureblood Princess. She's not a gooblood. This is hilarious. She sent this to me last night, a couple days ago actually. So here you have Rosanne Boyland on the top right. And if you look at her pants and her shoes, you can see she's got these bright green socks over her pant legs. And she's got the Don't Tread on Me flag. Now you move at the next section, the next image on the left, you can see she's on the ground, but those aren't her legs. Those aren't her pants. Her pants are ripped and shredded and torn. The person on the ground that's supposedly being trampled to death, she's chanting, "Don't tread on me," and they're trampling on her. Yeah, she changed pants, I guess, in the middle of the riot. Now, on the ground beside her, you see a police officer face down. Well, the cop that's face down is a dummy with no arms. A dummy with no arms. Again, those jeans, those shoes, you can see the jeans are torn. She's got the green laces, not there. All right, let's see. Let's move on. That's just from yesterday, which, you know, I joked about it after it happened. I said, this is going to be compared to the next 9/11. They're going to say, oh, they 9/11'd us. And that's the actual line they used. Well, Kamala Harris, is it president yet? I mean, I know we got that hologram in chief. Kamala Harris comes out and she says that it was like Pearl Harbor. She actually called it that. Thirst of Truth says someone should send the 21-minute video to Jeranism. Well, you know, a lot of these popular flat earth channels don't know the news is fake. It's kind of ironic. I recognized this back in 2017, where they all insisted that the Vegas shooting was real. And I thought, you know what? you're getting your information from the same sources that tell you that the Mars missions are real, that the space program is real, and all this stuff is real. Global warming's real. So why do you selectively trust them when it's really bad news? When it's obvious agitprop, get your guns, and it's all tied together. Why do they want your guns? Well, you need guns to defend private property, including your own body, your own mind. I mean, they're seizing it all. So here you have the Vegas event, and a lot of people, like a lot of these flat earth channels, like I said, they believe these things are real. Well, that one auto debunks itself. 13 months later, 50 of the victims that survived were shot at another country music concert. 50 of them at the borderline shooting. And that one auto debunks itself if you care to do the homework and the research as we have. But what's more, concurrent with the shooting 13 months after Vegas, there was actually a drill being conducted in Thousand Oaks, where the Borderline Bar and Grill was. And the drill was based on Vegas. And it had 50 crisis actors. These are all facts. The news called it an eerie coincidence, but I don't believe in eerie coincidences. I'm not an eerie coincidence theorist. Okay, check this out. John Lennon, imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us. There's no country and no religion. The world will be as one, no possessions, brotherhood of man. John Lennon, and then you have Darth Klaus, you'll own nothing and be happy. Again, this is part of the war on private property. And one of the things about the space program as it ties into all of this is they're constantly giving us a view of the Earth from space, and they're telling us, look how troubled the world is. Look how good it is for the world when we shut down our economies. And why do we need the economies? Oh, private property, buying stuff, consumerism. Massive long-term operation. That's why I call this a monotheistic religion. It's very monolithic. Yeah, unhinged. Kamala Harris compares J6 to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. You know, actually, I'll say this. It is accurate to say that the event of 1/6/21 is comparable to Pearl Harbor and 9/11, in that these are fake, staged, made for TV, made for fake history books, psychological operations. These were all fake. 9/11 was fake. Pearl Harbor was fake. J6 was fake. So yeah, you could compare it. Just as fake, just as divisive, and just as believable to the true believers. So we know it's fake. She knows it's fake. But the masses don't. Oh, another interesting coincidence. So Ashley Babbitt's dog died yesterday at 2:34 p.m. Now, what time did she die? A tragic twist of fate. Another one of these coincidences. We just received the very sad news that Ashley Babbitt's dog has died at 2:34. Now, what time did she die? What time did they report her as having died? We can talk about Ashley Babbitt again later. But, you know, Donald Trump actually sent her a posthumous video birthday card. So she's dead. But the president, or former president, did a video birthday card for this dead psychopath. And if you watched her videos, you'd know she's a raging psychopath. She tried to run over some lady who flirted with her boyfriend. I mean, really psycho. I don't believe this is a real death. But let me see. What time was Ashley Babbitt shot? They tried really hard to create a martyr out of her. I'm just trying to see if it's 2:34. If somebody could find that piece of information. These things aren't coincidental. That's why I'm looking into it. Like when they shot J. Daniel Davidson. Let me bring this one up. Or was it Danielson? No, Danielson. This is in Portland. So Jay Danielson was shot by a Antifa radical, and the Antifa radical, Mike Ryanol, said it was the first shot of the Civil War. And that shooting happened at the end of August 2020 amidst all these riots there in Portland. You had Chazistan, and you know, across the country we had all these riots that the media was not reporting on. Well, anyway, Danielson was shot in the chest at 8:46. And that number is significant because this was a retaliation in many ways for the George Floyd killing. And this was also meant to incite a civil war, according to the shooter, during an interview he gave to Vice.com before he was killed a few minutes later at Trump's command over Twitter. Anyway, if you missed this whole event, my main point is this. You had this Patriot Prayer guy, one of these Proud Boy types, a Trumper, who's shot just right in the chest, sneak attack, 8:46. George Floyd was kneeled on for 8:46. And these are things that are intended to incite civil war. 9/11, the first plane was hit at 8:46. And I can point to many, many more examples of this to show you how layered the symbolism is. So when I'm looking at the death of Ashley Babbitt, she was shot at 2:44 p.m. There we have it. 2:44 p.m. Her dog was shot at, again, 2:34. Probably doesn't mean anything, but again, they're very specific about these things. So there's an 11-minute difference. Let me go through some comments. Akko Nukem said, we should all become crisis actors. Wouldn't that be funny? You know, actually, we do have a few crisis actors among us. One of our longtime listeners, chatters, think tankers, has gone undercover as a crisis actor in Vegas, and I've seen what they can do with special effects. I mean, they can make it look like you've got a piece of shrapnel sticking out of your head. I mean, you see all these people like zombies just hanging out on their lunch breaks with crisis actors in between scenes. Super realistic. And I suggested it. I said, you know what? You might as well get paid. We're all having to endure this brainwashing. A couple memes here. Adam Lanza at a hotel looking out the window at the nuke hitting the Capitol. And there I was on 1/6/21. I'm sorry, David Hogg. If you didn't know the David Hogg-Adam Lanza connection, it's actually kind of simple. And it makes perfect sense when you understand the methodology. So the reason why people think that Adam Lanza and David Hogg are the same is because they look the same. Just a bowl cut away. In fact, I will play that song. Just a Bowl Cut Away by One-Eyed Jack and the Shells after this. Anyway, people have compared the two because of the way they look. One of them has a bowl cut, one doesn't. Now, what is the sense in this? Well, David Hogg is the face of the anti-gun movement. He's the savior to the kids kneeling or actually ducking beneath their desks, the new duck and cover, hiding from the school shooters, hiding from the Adam Lanzas. So the face of terror to all the youth in the schools, the face that's supposed to terrify them about assault rifle 15s, AR-15s, but assault rifle if you're a liberal. If you're on the left, I mean, they've demonized this weapon. So you have the face of terror, and then you have the face of the savior, and it's the same face. That's called Stockholm Syndrome, where you're a captive audience, and your terrorist is also your savior. And that's what creates the cognitive dissonance, and it causes the trauma bonding, so you actually identify with your captors. So you're afraid of guns, because guns can kill you, but now you're trauma bonding with the SWAT team with their big guns and their armored personnel carriers and their black body armor. Don't Breathe 2020. This is good. This is some more predictive programming. Someone in the comments said something about wish they had more copies of Fake World News to pass around their laundromat. And I'm glad you brought that up. For those of you who are interested in becoming a distribution node for Fake World News, just email me at timosmond007 and I will work something out, because what I am trying to do is create some sample versions, smaller versions that don't cost as much as the $5 tabloid, including shipping. Usually depends on where you are. But anyway, I was thinking I was going to create some samples where it's just maybe truncated, but definitely meme rich. So if you go to fakeworld.news, you can still order issue number 2, which is about to ship out. Issue number 1 has been restocked. Okay, Don't Breathe. This is a movie that came out, I believe, in let me get the year on it. Might have been 2016. But anyway, listen to this. So Don't Breathe, from David Pryor. He wrote this on my Discord server. I figured I'd watch the 2016 horror film Don't Breathe. 95% of the movie takes place in a house on the corner of Linwood Street. Okay, I see. This is the connection. So Linwood Street is where this movie Don't Breathe takes place. There's another movie that came out at the same time called The Happening, also a movie about people being unable to breathe, sort of a plague. And in The Happening, I think Mark Wahlberg from the Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch is in that one. The guy's always in these movies that are, I think, very rich with predictive programming. He starred in a movie about the Boston bombing, which was more realistic than the actual thing. Anyway, The Happening takes place in Rittenhouse Park. Rittenhouse Park, Philadelphia, 11:31 a.m. So the connection here, Rittenhouse, Linwood, Kyle Rittenhouse, and his attorney, Lin Wood, who was also the attorney of the JonBenet Ramsey family, the parents. Again, appreciate that. People in Discord are constantly dropping off information like that. So if you want to join our Discord, you can be the first to find a lot of this information. Just go to infiniteplainsociety.com. President Biden did not mention Trump by name yesterday. And he actually said something about between me and the president.
Sort of attitude that seems to be emerging to some degree in American politics. It's not about you, it's about me. That's how it's viewed. But it's not about me. It's not about whether I'm president or she's vice president. It's about the system and about somebody who decides to put himself above everything. And but I did not want to turn it into a contemporary political battle between me and the president.
Okay, maybe it's nothing, but the hologram says, I did not want to turn it into a contemporary battle between me and the president. It's like, I thought you were the president. All right, let's move on. I mentioned this yesterday. The largest rocket that NASA has, the most powerful rocket, is the SLS. And does anyone want to guess how tall this thing is? 33 stories. Eric asks for the email address. Yeah, go to timosman007@gmail.com. Okay, we already talked about this. The Percy upper stage of the Russian rocket crashed back to Earth. The Futurama reptilians are from Omicron Percy 8. So you have this piece of space junk named for the planet that the reptilian Omicrons are from entering the Earth as this new strain also enters the Earth. Uber starts rapid test deliveries. Uber is doing rapid test deliveries. So if you recall, if you watched the South Pole, we had this skit called Vaxdash. So Vaxdash was Bill Gates selling black market vaccines, basically like an Uber Dash guy. He's got a scooter and he mostly deals to the celebrities. Here's a short little, here's the jingle for Vaxdash.
Time to get your bags. Time to get your bags. Vaxdash.
So if you just get the app, Vaxdash, free delivery, Bill Gates shows up at your door. Let me play that one more time. But again, Uber is now sending out PCR tests. So they're not really that far away from Vaxdash.
Time to get your bags. Time to get your bags. Vaxdash.
Vaxdash, that's JT33. Excellent work there. Uber Eats starts rapid test deliveries. Like, I'm not going to eat there anymore. There's this place here called Bob's Burgers, and supposedly they have really good taco burgers, but it's next door to a crematorium. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me, but like, I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't go to Mars and become a cannibal and donate my blood for Mars bricks. Like, I don't know about this whole new age thing. Let's see, last week we talked about 5G head explosions, and it's a hoax. It turns out that the people's heads weren't exploding from 5G. It was from, the smoke was actually coming from gas canisters that they were being shot with. Not a Globe tweeted this to me. Musk's Starlink Satelloons. Do you know what Satelloons are? If you're looking at the screen, you're actually seeing a convoy of Satelloons, and they're all on a cable tethered together. So it's a train of Satelloons going across the sky. Satelloons or satellites? Well, if you look at the Musk Starlink satellites flying overhead, they look more like a bunch of balloons. I mean, what do you think? Something else to consider whenever you see something above your head at night and you wonder, am I seeing a satellite? Am I seeing some kind of a craft? Ask yourself, how is it lit? Because these things have to be lit by the sun to reflect the light. Well, how can you reflect the sun if you're in the shadow of the earth? The shadow of the earth is a column of darkness extending 870,000 miles into space. So if it's around midnight and you see lights above your head, it's not reflecting the sun. It can't be in low Earth orbit. Now, it might be further out there, geostationary, but then it wouldn't be moving that fast, so you wouldn't actually see it as moving. So just a heads up, a lot of the people believe what they see on the screen without questioning it. Let's go through some more headlines here. Oh, this day in history, I didn't know that. 1/6 is also the date that Nancy Kerrigan was attacked when she was hit with a baton on her knee and she had that major tragedy. Just sat there crying. That was a pretty heart-wrenching scene. But yeah, this day in history, skater Nancy Kerrigan was attacked at a Detroit ice rink following a practice session before the Olympic trials. And I guess it was blamed on Tonya Harding. So it's the day that Nancy Kerrigan had her kneecap taken out, and it's the day that we had our new Pearl Harbor, I guess. I don't understand how they can say these things with a straight face. But it's both sides. Because, look, if the right actually cared about the truth, if they weren't part of this scam, they would be saying that Ashley Babbitt's not dead. They wouldn't be trying to create a martyr out of her. They wouldn't be creating a martyr out of her. They would say this was a hoax. It was staged to make us all look like terrorists, make us look unhinged. And again, Owen Schroyer being charged, and I'm like, wait, this guy works for Alex Jones, and he's going to go down with this ship? No way. And there's enough information. Look this up for yourself if you haven't yet. It's just due diligence. Everything wrong with the Capitol riot in 20 minutes or less. And what you'll find is that the entire thing was a simulated riot. You did have real people there, but it was simulated, and moreover, the carnage inside, the shooting of Ashley Babbitt, obviously fake, jump cut, selectively edited. She had a big pad on her back beneath the American flag she was wrapped in. Even her name, Ashley Babbitt, wrapped in an American flag. Look up The Babbitts by Sinclair Lewis. This is just another one of these character names, just like Roseanne Boylan carrying the Don't Tread on Me flag and she gets trampled. Well, here you have Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis, a novel about American culture and society, about the vacuity of middle-class life, and the Babbitts are confronting their standards being challenged, basically, by commies. So here it says, after the social instability and sharp economic depression that followed World War I, many Americans saw in the 1920s business and growth as foundations for stability. But it goes on to say, the civic boosters and self-made men of the middle class represented a particularly American depiction of success, a time when the promotion of the American identity was crucial in the face of rising fears of communism. So here you have Ashley Babbitt fighting the communist left, fighting the stolen election, wrapping herself in an American flag, and then running into the Capitol. It's just too good. Okay, let's move on here. UK's first astronaut says aliens exist. Right, that's an acceptable conspiracy theory. You can believe in aliens, but you can't believe in angels. I mean, this is a scientific replacement for the older concept of religion. Thinking that God's going to punish you for your sin? No, that's ridiculous. But COVID will. So you better social distance. Oh, holy water? Why do you need that? There's no such thing as sin and demons, and what's that going to protect you from? But hand sanitizer, yeah, definitely need that to protect you from the super spreaders and the memes. All right, let's see. Salty Siren says JT33 is legend. JT, oh yeah, Aku mentions this. Great production on the Vax Dash. Yeah, the Vax Dash slogan is JT33's work. It's just one of the things that you'll see and hear if you watch South Pole. New episode in the works. We're focusing on the overjaw effect. Do you know what the overjaw effect is? Most people know what the overview effect is. The overview effect is what happens when you go so far into space that looking down, you see the world as fragile, as a ball that's suspended in this black abyss, and it's very fragile and it needs to be saved. So you go up and you come down an environmentalist, a Democrat. So the overview effect is a cognitive shift in awareness reported by astronauts during spaceflight. So they actually have an upgrade. They level up. They're high priests. They're elevated. They're higher than you. It refers to the experience of seeing firsthand the reality of the Earth and space, which is immediately understood to be a tiny, fragile ball of life hanging in the void, shielded by a paper-thin atmosphere. From space, national boundaries vanish, conflicts that divide us become less important, and the need to create a planetary society with a united will to protect the pale blue dot becomes imperative. So this is this idea that you've seen the ball in space and now you've got this cognitive shift. Well, I don't think this is legit, because the astronauts or the space tourists like William Shatner or Branson and company, they didn't go far enough away from the surface to see it as a pale blue dot. They could see New Mexico still. That's it. They couldn't even see beyond New Mexico. They were only 50 miles up. I mean, maybe you had a view of a few hundred miles. I don't know. I couldn't tell out the window that they were looking at a ball. Now, the thing is, when they're up there looking down, and you saw this very obviously with Virgin Galactic, so they're looking down from space, and whenever they put their faces to the windows, their mouths drop open, like dangerously wide open. Like, look at that. Like OSHA would have something to say about that. That is not safe to be around all that equipment with your mouths just hanging open like that. And I'm suggesting that this is inauthentic, that they aren't really blown away by what they're seeing. I think what they're doing is they're trying to convey to us that it's really freaking amazing. So I question, well, why don't they just show us? Why don't you put your camera up to the window and show me this jaw-dropping view? And here you can see one of these braying astronautesses, this astronaut, she's like braying like a donkey. I mean, what do you make of that? Now, I've seen beautiful things, but it's never caused me to open my mouth like I'm going to swallow a sheep, like some anaconda. Like, this is crazy to me. So I call this the overjaw effect. It's the fake overview. They're not far enough to get the overview effect, so they have to exaggerate it for us, making this ridiculous face. And they all do it. And that's one of the themes of the next episode of South Pole. Go to southpole.lol if you want to look deeper into that. At some point soon, I also want to do a breakdown of the iconography and symbolism in Virgin Galactic as it compares to the symbolism and iconography in SpaceX and NASA. Here's the Virgin emblem, and you see an obvious corona, an eclipse, and it's also an eye. This is all very connected to Isis and the goddess of the night sky, which phonetically sounds like ISS, not a coincidence. A virgin is another name of the goddess, Virgin, Virgo. It's got goddess imagery all over it. And yeah, we'll go deep into this by itself. It's a separate topic. Their last launch was on 7/11, the 42nd anniversary of Skylab falling. A lot of stuff falling from the sky these days. In fact, there's a new movie out called Moonfall, and I think Halle Berry is in it. Yeah, about the moon falling down to the Earth. War news update. Debris from Russia's satellite will continue to threaten U.S. military and spy satellites. And they've said that we're already in space wars, that Russia and China are already messing with America's satellites all the time. Hacking, lasers, but they have plausible deniability because they're not shooting things down yet. CubeSat. The era of pocket satellites has begun. You know, I thought it might be a good idea to get a bunch of globe Earth skeptics together. I think it's only like $40,000. Pitch in on a CubeSat. Call it the FlatSat, and it'll just be a 24/7 live video feed of the Earth from space. Okay, let's see here. After Starlink satellite's irregular operations, SpaceX's connection with the U.S. military arouses concern. Yeah, there is this interesting connection, I think, too, when you look at Musk and his connections to the military. And what exactly would SpaceX have to do with the military? Well, we got Space Force, and I remember I was reading some article about how they were reaching out to Musk to deliver weapons anywhere in the world in 1 hour. The U.S. military and Elon Musk are planning a 7,500 mile per hour rocket that can deliver weapons anywhere in the world in an hour. SpaceX will now assess the cost and technical challenges of the project. Kind of reminds me of Tony Stark, Iron Man. Like, there's some interesting connections here worth exploring. Elon Musk is an amalgamation of Werner von Braun, possibly his dad, but von Braun wrote a character in his Mars: A Technical Tale, the first person to colonize Mars, called the Elon. But he's also a great deal of Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka. In fact, he even started a candy company called Boring Candy, and he bought Gene Wilder's home. Boring Candy to go with his tunneling company, Boring. You know, the Hyperloop thing. Connection? Willy Wonka sends you in a tunnel to the land of the Oompa Loomps, where they spend all day making candy. So presumably you go to Mars, maybe you can pay your rent making candy. It's very, very similar, but also Iron Man is one of the characters, Tony Stark, that forms the basis for this persona that people adulate. And Tony Stark is Iron Man, and interestingly enough, when Robert Downey Jr. was going to play Iron Man, he studied Elon Musk, which doesn't make sense to me, but yeah, he's like, I need to play Tony Stark. Elon Musk is a real-life Tony Stark, so I'm going to, here it is, Downey Jr. says Iron Man. Again, he was inspired by Musk. So it's interesting here how you have a character in, quote, real life who's the basis for this fake character being brought to life by this other actor. Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, based off of Elon Musk's persona. All right, I want to go through some of these memes I posted on my Twitter account, make sure we haven't missed anything. Again, yesterday was such a farce. This is a pretty good one. 12/7/41, Pearl Harbor. 9/11/01, you can see towers tipped over, burned down. 1/6, an overturned stapler. But they've managed to equate 9/11 and Pearl Harbor to 1/6. Yeah, they're all psychological operations. They're all eminently debunkable, but okay, we will be live off and on this weekend, doing a lot of work, building up the networks. Lots happening at Dark Matter Radio again. New live shows.
People and really elite people of the world.
We're actually building up a whole collection of live shows that will be back to back, mostly Monday through Friday. So I'm getting a lot more involved with that. A lot of developments. I'll keep you abreast of that as it goes along. Moonfall. The moon is public enemy number 1. If you want to see this trailer, I have a list of movies that have the same imagery. Like, take a look at this. We've been talking about the movie Don't Look Up, which someone pointed out to me as a double meaning. Don't look up, as in don't research, don't do your own research, don't question the science. Well, the movie Don't Look Up is about the scientists not being listened to, and it results in the destruction of the world. The world is basically the Titanic, and the comet that's going to hit the Earth is the iceberg. So the whole movie is about Leonardo DiCaprio, another iceberg movie, warning the world. Well, here you have this new movie called Moonfall, and it looks just like Leonardo DiCaprio's character. So I'm kind of scientist guy that nobody listens to. The sky is going to fall. It's this Chicken Little narrative. And the thing is, this is beyond just Netflix and trending stuff, because what we're looking at here, I believe, is the monolith leading us towards the next major psychological operation. We saw tons of predictive programming like this before 9/11, and the predictive programming for stuff from the sky, Space Wars, it's really intense right now. And what's more, even Space Force is doing drills for Space Wars. This is from pastemagazine.com. Do you ever worry that one day the moon will get fed up with all of our shit and decide to fly out of orbit, head directly towards the Earth, and demolish every living thing? That's what's happening in Moonfall. It says here, co-written, and this is key, co-written and directed, because I was talking about 9/11 predictive programming. Co-written by Roland Emmerich, who has a penchant for watching planet Earth get wrecked. See Independence Day and Day After Tomorrow. So a guy from Independence Day is involved in this. Well, after 9/11, many people compared it to what they saw on Independence Day. So Roland Emmerich, German film director, screenwriter, producer, widely known for his science fiction films, and he's known for Independence Day. So if you search for Independence Day, and there's a lot here we could go into. Quite a lot here that connects to 3/11. Let's just start with this. Look at the cover really quick. Now, if you look at the cover, you see a mothership, and these are all really significant terms. The mothership descending upon the Empire State Building, an alien invasion. And in 2020, they actually turned the lights on the Empire State Building so that it looked like a big glowing vax needle. And they did this in solidarity for the nurses, they said. So you look at the skyline and you see this Empire State Building flashing red to honor the healthcare workers. And I thought that's interesting because the way that it looked, some said it looked like the Eye of Sauron. Others thought, people had different impressions of it. It looked kind of ominous, but it says here, starting tonight, our lights will be replaced by the Heartbeat of America, a red and white siren for the emergency workers on the front line of the fight. And so you're looking at the Empire State Building, and it looks like a big, menacing, glowing needle on the skyline. But what's more, it looks like the glowing Empire State Building from the cover of Independence Day. So you look at the cover of Independence Day, the whole top of the building is lit, and this is precisely the effect that they created. Now, there's one more layer to this. After 9/11, people were describing it, and how do you describe things? Usually, you have to compare it to something. So people were comparing it to Independence Day. They said it's like the movie Independence Day, all the buildings falling down. So Independence Day had us prepared for tumbling buildings. And following that, it had us prepared to follow the leadership. And you had the leader in the movie suddenly taking a leadership role, being taken seriously, just like Bush was suddenly taken seriously. So again, Independence Day, preparing us for attacks around the world, stuff falling down. Same director in Moonfall. That's what I'm pointing out here. You can check out the trailer here, which features CGI explosions, space races, incredible one-liners. Take a look. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip here from Moonfall. And it's probably not all that different from 90% of the films on Amazon and Netflix and HBO that are all preparing us for something to fall from the sky. And I called this...
By now, a huge problem is heading our way. An emergency meeting is being called at our usual place immediately. Free bagels.
Lionsgate. I'm just going to scoot forward so you can see the actual imagery, because this is the important part. This is the programming that goes into everyone's head.
What's the plan?
Save the moon, save Earth.
Stuff falling from the sky. All right, let's see here. I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Moonfall, the sky falling, Earth from space. I got some footage from China I'm very disappointed in the Chinese space program. I don't think they're as realistic as what we have here. If you're looking at the screen, I'll go ahead and play this clip. I mean, it looks like Legos. And I saw one of their videos where one of their, what do they call them, taikonauts? One of the Chinese astronauts had a Chinese flag that was waving in the wind, because apparently it's very windy in low Earth orbit. Also, I want to point out a lot of people in our Discord server are creating artwork. As you know, I've been creating this. I've been creating a lot of art recently, but I've been really focusing on the penguin with the wrench. And the penguin with the wrench symbolizes the think tanker, the individual in the think tank who's moderated, and we moderate everyone who participates so that we can keep the unknowns out. So it's a symbol of order. So this is the basic standard Penguinati model with the blue wrench. That one's in charcoal, and this one here was created by, I believe this is someone in our Discord server this morning. Like I said, a lot of people, this is by Wonka World. So you don't want to miss any of our great memes, great art, or any of our leads, any of the Metascript breakdowns. So if you haven't signed up, infiniteplanesociety.com, get instant access to the Discord server. Here's something else that was just posted in Discord related to everything else that we're talking about. Elon Musk on Twitter just a few hours ago. Starlinks with lasers deployed into orbit. Putting everything into place. What do you make of that? We were just talking about his military connections and Musk being recruited to help the military send weapons anywhere in 1 hour. So here he is talking about lasers in space. Very Dr. Evil-y. Sin Crow says, I'm in a cult. You are, pretty much. And you have to choose. Are you going to be in the default cult of the MSM, the cult of the monolith, where you're all just metaversed like what they're doing to those poor cows? Or are you in your own cult? And, you know, cult is just culture, really, if you think about it. It's the influences that you choose to surround yourself with, or the ones that you're surrounded with by default that really shape and mold you, or can, depending on how malleable you are. I'm not all that malleable. I'm not someone who's affected by peer pressure. And I think that's one of the reasons why this think tank sticks together so well. We're not really perturbed or bothered by the fact that what we say might be offensive or shocking or unbelievable to the true believers in society. If you go to the murderhornets.band, B-A-N-D, you could find a collection of One-Eyed Jack and the Murder Hornets' music and videos, along with lyrics. So go to the murderhornets.band. I'm going to play a track here that I mentioned earlier. This is Just a Bowl Cut Away. And of course, this is a reference to David Hogg, Adam Lanza, and this ongoing, or have they phased them out? You know, they phased out serial killers. Do you remember that? They phased out serial killers and replaced them with mass murderers. And I believe it was Richard Matheson who said, no, it was, let me see if I can find it. I'll pull up this link here. So many great blogs I want to recommend too. I'll put a link, a list of all the links that I think that are worth, that we should probably check out. But anyway, it seems like maybe the public attention span shortened. Maybe they couldn't handle these ongoing, drawn-out stories of this killer is prowling in these areas, and so they thought, well, let's just do this now, since we have more of a soundbite culture and 30-second attention spans. Let's just create these atrocities that happen in about the space of one day. So they phased out serial killers and replaced them with mass shooters. But I don't know. What's next? Just a Bowl Cut Away appears to be censored. Fascinating. Don't you love YouTube? It's for my own good, though. They wouldn't want me to melt. They must have a panel of, a panel of volunteer snowflakes who are willing to endure this stuff and find out, is this safe? It's almost like people who test the poison, for the emperor or their king or whatever. the person who has to taste the food first in case it's poisoned. It's like, bless that person. You know, they're saving others selflessly. And that's kind of what we have going on here. We got these snowflakes working for YouTube who are there to get offended and just basically tear it down so that no one else gets offended behind them. If it was up to me, the way that we would actually proceed with all of this stuff regarding censorship, it would be self-censorship. So if something bothers you, you wouldn't be the one to see it. You would just flag it, and it would be removed from your site. Not this, it offends me so nobody can see it. If I can't enjoy it, nobody will. Like, isn't that how, I don't know. It seems to me like that's kind of how immature, psychopathic narcissists think. If I can't see it, nobody will. But I guess that would describe your average snowflake. A bit narcissistic, control freaks for sure. Anyway, this is One-Eyed Jack and the Shells. Thanks for joining. If you haven't signed up for the Discord server, I'll put a link below. And again, same time tomorrow. We'll probably take calls later on tonight. This is One-Eyed Jack and the Shells. Everyone have a great afternoon. And thanks for joining in the chat. We'll do open phones likely tonight.
Another angry white kid just about kept away. Greta's going to be pissed. Another angry white kid just about cut away. us as actors are here.